It's all about texture for me really, texture, shape and colour. I think it just needs a little bit more. Yeah, I definitely think that's better. Morning everyone, and this is highly unusual. I've just arrived here at my chosen location and I can see a scene that I really like instantly. I've probably walked about 30 feet or something and I can see something I like already. This doesn't happen very often. This is kind of the wider section just before you enter this woodland. And there's some spider webs down here, which is fantastic. And we've got a little bit of colour in the foreground, this sort of low-lying shrub, a bit of yellow. We've got some trees in the background, and then fog, a really nice amount of fog. It's funny sometimes, like this is a good example today that I saw something that I instantly liked and wanted to shoot it, and then when I started looking for compositions I really started to struggle. I think maybe the fog had changed a little bit, so maybe it didn't look exactly the same as when I first arrived. I have finally found a composition that I'm happiest with. I've kind of got a couple of lines at the top of the image, just coming down, almost look like paths, kind of like look like green paths, which they're just sort of gaps in the surrounding habitat. One is actually a path, I think. So for some reason I kind of forgot to check the weather properly, and I knew it was going to be foggy probably, which is why I came out, but I kind of forgot. I think there was some forecast of rain, so I'm just waiting until it eases off a bit. There's not really much in the way of fog here in this woodland when I've come in. Maybe there was before, but this has caught my eye. You just got to look for anything you can find basically, and in these conditions it's all about texture for me really. Texture, shape and colour, just anything that leaps out. So what I've got here, I'm undenied whether to take this, but I'm doing it. It's a chestnut, is it sweet chestnut I think, and just this branch that's coming out, which is coming out at a real angle, and it's got a real curve to it. But as much as that, it's the texture. Like the top of this branch, because it's so wet, it's just really reflecting nicely, and it's got a beautiful texture to it. And the colours in these conditions, because it's so overcast, it's so dark, the colours are actually going to look really rich. Our composition is a little bit awkward, and that's mainly because I've kind of got to get into this tree, and literally to get where I want I've kind of got to get right up against this tree. It's all a little bit awkward. I'm doing something a little bit different here, because photography should be what you enjoy. It shouldn't be something that you think you should be taking or someone else tells you to take. It'd be something that you really enjoy and makes you feel like you're being creative and getting the most out of it. So when I first composed this shot, I mean I'm pretty much straight down the middle looking down this branch at the moment, but when I first composed it I kind of had the leaves on the left hand side. It was more balanced with the leaves on the left hand side and then the branch on the right, so it's kind of, you know, sometimes you do that, you maybe want to balance both sides of the frame. But I've actually decided it looks better to me if I pan across. So if I pan across to the right a little bit, to include more of that curve and like that deep shadow underneath that curving branch, which I really love because it just highlights the shape so much. Now I've got less leaves on the left hand side. I actually prefer that composition. I think just because it's just I find it more interesting. I think it's just a bit more creative for me. And on top of that, what I'm doing is I'm using a wider aperture. I don't want this whole scene in focus. In fact, I don't even think I want this whole branch in focus. That is not you know, that is not how I see it. So at the moment I'm on f3.2. I'm basically focusing on this leaf, which is a nice, easy, obvious focus point to choose, and with the angle of the camera, I'm getting a pretty good depth of field in this section of the branch. So the part of the branch that is close to the camera and where the leaf is, I'm getting a good depth of field there. It's nice and sharp, and then it's kind of tailing off into the distance, and you know, that's going quite out of focus, but I love that effect. Again, I'm looking through the viewfinder because I just enjoy it more. Okay, I'm happy with how that looks. I'm now gonna zoom in. So I zoom into ×5, and I'm pretty much basically, I'm just focusing on that leaf, making sure, nice and sharp. 1/8 of a second at f3.2, ISO 400, that'll do, 400 will be fine. 2-second timer, done. I could put a polarising filter on here, but I think you just got to assess it. That's what I do. I don't immediately think I need a polarising filter. If I put this on, rotate it, it's gonna make the colours leap out more. It's gonna cut through some of that glare. So, like, as I see it, the colours just look fantastic to me. It looks really natural. I think that's the main thing for me, is it looks really natural. When I look at it later, it's going to be as I remember it. So I'm not going to use a polarising filter. This tree is just absolutely amazing. I photographed it maybe a couple of years ago, so I'll put a link in the description to that video because I did that in this woodland. It's just absolutely incredible, the branches, the shapes of all these different branches coming off, and I wanted to try and shoot it in the fog because I think it'd look amazing in misty, foggy conditions, but we don't have that now. I don't think I'm going to be able to take a shot of this in all honesty, but I'm going to have a look. Why not? I'll have a look, see if we can do anything. Right, I'm absolutely amazed at that. I thought there's no way I'm going to get a picture out of this, it's just not good enough. And just kept the wide angle lens on still, first of all, and just took a couple of shots, test shots, and the bramble looks amazing because the bramble, it's kind of like the light is hitting it, and it's kind of, not all of it, but some of the leaves, the light is just catching it and highlighting it, and it's just adding this really quite nice texture at the bottom of the frame. So it is quite interesting foreground, and obviously the tree, the shapes of the branches in that tree, you know, are always gonna look after themselves and look good. It does look really, really nice actually. Love the composition, not too difficult in the composition. Colours are looking good, but I think it just needs a little bit more. So I think I need a polarising filter for this shot just to enhance the colours as much as anything. It just looks a little drab at the moment. Yeah, I definitely think that's better. So I can just use this wheel and I can rotate the filter, the polarising filter, and as it rotates round, you start to see the colour of the bramble leaping out more, and some of the reflections are going as well. So like some of the reflections from the leaves are going, but interestingly, even if I turn the polarising filter the entire way round so it's got its full strength, I've still got some of these reflections here on the bramble, which is fantastic. So I'm basically turning it almost completely full, not quite full, and that's giving me the effect I like. Now, one of the problems I've got, and this is something I've noticed, but I don't do a lot of landscape photography, so I very rarely come across this problem. But that is, we've got an electronic shutter on this R6. We've got an electronic shutter, which is fantastic for landscape photography because you can just set it with a remote release or 2-second timer, and then you don't get any vibration. So like minimise no vibration at all, which you would get like with a DSLR. But when you get down to a certain shutter speed on this camera, you can't use the electronic shutter, which I think is a bit weird. So it's like I can take advantage of fantastic landscape conditions with an electronic shutter, but I can't use electronic shutter. If I'm just moaning about something I'm wrong, just let me know, because I do have a tendency to do that at times. But yeah, once you get down to, I think it's half a second I think, you can't go any slower. So if you need more light, like I do, and if you put a polarizer on, you need more light, then I can't go slower than it using an electronic shutter. So yeah, I need to look into that more. So what I've done is gone to first curtain electronic first curtain shutter, which is kind of a bit in between mechanical and electronic, because I can actually use a slower shutter speed with that. So the hope is that the vibration won't be too bad. If I use fully mechanical shutter, then I'm going to get more vibration. Yeah, if you know about that, just let me know in the comments. Only in that last image did I actually decide to use a polarizing filter. Now, if you'd like to see me doing a similar woodland shoot and showing you a polarizing filter in more depth and maybe when and when not to use it, then check the video that's up on the screen. It's probably one of my favourite woodland photography videos that I've ever done. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video sometime soon.